You probably hear this question frequently, but is the story of creation scientifically accurate? Question mark. Sure, God could create all the animals in one day if he wanted to, but did he? And if it's not scientifically accurate, is there harm in believing it? Meaning, is there a conflict there? So how should we understand when we have things come from Scripture like that?
Right. Pope Pius XII answered that question for us very, very nicely in 1943 in an encyclical called Divino Afflante Spiritu. And in that encyclical, and you just type that into Google, you can get the whole thing, set out, but not only the whole encyclical, but some good interpretations of it. But let me just give you the gist of that. What Pope Pius was saying is the Bible and the creation story in the Bible, its purpose is to give salvific truths necessary for salvation. Sacred truths necessary for salvation. The point of the Bible is not to give a scientifically precise description and explanation of the physical universe. That's not the purpose of the biblical author. That's not the purpose of the Bible. So there's a different motive in writing the creation story than doing science. Then the Pope moves over and says, well, what discipline should be trying to give a physically accurate description and explanation of the physical universe. That's the job of science and scientific methodology. So, in answer to your question, does the Bible give a scientifically accurate picture of creation? The answer is no. No, it doesn't. Why? Because its purpose was not to give a scientific explanation of creation. Its purpose is to give sacred truths necessary for salvation. Now, let me just delve into that a little bit more deeply so you can see what Pope Pius is saying. Essentially, right, our biblical author who's writing Genesis, right, he's got a problem. And what's his problem? He's surrounded by various cultures that are influencing the culture and the belief of Israel. Like how? They have all kinds of myths and epics, right? Like the Gilgamesh epic. And in that epic, there are many gods. And this is starting to drift into the Israelite mentality. So he says, no, there are not many gods. There is but one God, and everything else, right, comes and is created by him. So he's going to reconfigure this, and that's a sacred truth necessary for salvation, right? So that's the first. And then in the epics, right, you've got all these natural gods, right? The sea is a god, and the stars are a god, and the sun's a god, and everything's a god. So of course he's got to correct that too. So he says, hey, look, he says, not only is there one God, but there's no ocean god out there. The ocean is a creation of God. There's no star god, there's no sun god, there's no moon god, right? They're all creations of the one God. Everything else is a creation of God. And then you've got this other terrible myth that's going on, influencing the Israelite people, that human beings, right, are just cannon fodder and playthings for the gods, right? So in other words, the gods are all up there playing a kind of a game, and we're the pawns in the game. And of course, the biblical author is going, no, it's not like that at all. You are actually created in the image and likeness of God himself. So you're not a plaything. You're not cannon fodder. And then you have this other problem, right? Matter is evil. Right, and of course, God, after He creates every day, right, He creates, right, and says he looks upon it and He sees that it is good. It's not evil. So you just take these four things alone, how important they are for salvation. There is what we have to glean from the biblical text. But if you ask for a scientifically accurate picture of creation, right, I'll be honest with you, our view of creation, in the scientific world is that the universe is approximately 13.8 billion years old, plus or minus 100 million years. There is approximately 10 to the 55 kilograms worth of mass in our universe. That's visible matter in our universe. And of course, there's about 5 times more dark matter, and there's about 3 times more than that of dark energy. So it's about 70% dark energy, 25% dark matter, and 5% visible matter. What we know of our physical universe is that it evolved in a certain way, and we can actually detail that very, very precisely. So that, right, God creates, right, the entire universe in a quantum cosmological moment where space, time, and gravity and the other 3 cosmological forces, right, the strong nuclear force, the weak force, and the electromagnetic force, are all combined into one thing that explodes and literally gives rise so symmetrically, so elegantly, it just begins to unravel, right? Now, as you're looking at this creation narrative from science, you see these remarkable parallels with the Bible. Like, let there be light as the first day of creation. Where did the biblical author figure out that one? That is very scientifically accurate. And of course, you look at that and you go, whoa, Nellie Bell, right? I mean, how did he know? And how does he know, right, how this unraveling occurs, where there's all kinds, right, of parallels between the scientific account and the biblical account? I couldn't tell you. I've just got to tell you, it's revelation of God, right? But of course, it's not going to be put into scientific language. So essentially, what Pope Pius is telling us in Divino Afflante Spiritus, let the Bible be the Bible to give sacred truths necessary for salvation. Let science be science to give, right, that accurate physical description, explanation. You can have both, right, because they're talking about 2 completely different spheres. Science can't replace theology. Theology can't replace science. They're doing 2 different things that stand compatibly with one another. And of course, the 2 explanations come from the same source, namely God. And of course, faith and reason are completely compatible. So there's no danger in believing in the scientific account of creation at all. You can be free to believe that. You can also be free to believe in the biblical account and its message for everything that we need to hear, that we need for our salvation, right? That tells us about the one God, about what nature really is, about the true dignity of humanity, and God's call to the dignity of humanity and the goodness of the material world around us.